purpose, so that when I'm totally happy, which I think I am with the position, then I'm going to put mid-span supports. But notice there are string lines on each side, so if there were any sagging, I would be able to know that. See, because everything's going to be closed in. There's going to be rib ends hiding all of this, except that it's still possible at any time to get under the boat, inside of the boat, to see the center line, to see the control lines on the side. You may recall that I jointed these down. You may recall it was higher. The boat was on these guys.
I never saw this up. This boat. Oh, you mean this boat here?
Well, no, what I mean is that this boat, both of them were up higher, but this boat was on these guys, you see?
Oh,
And
I think the last time I was here, you didn't have these set up at all.
oh, well then
That's 3
there you
weeks
go.
ago.
It happened pretty quickly.
Okay.
I guess you could say. But I think you might have seen
Maybe.
the individual molds.
Uh-huh.
They were stacked.
Yeah.
And now they are positioned, and I've made a very strong central frame. But let's say that let's say the boat was going to be built at a school or someplace. You always have to think, well, how would I get it there? And the best thing, if necessary, is that I could remove pieces of it. So there's the bow piece, which goes from here out, and which is temporarily screwed in, which will be bolted here. And then the stern piece is a box that is holding the stern. And so what we're left with is a 13-foot long frame that the molds are sitting on in the center. And that is easier to transport on a low trailer or something. So, but the boat is probably going to be framed and planked here.
Okay.
And that probably because of the conditions that you need control of the atmosphere to some extent. So inside of a building is a little bit easier to do that than outside.
Yeah.
You need some security, you need some shelter for the tools and the people working. So you need so many things. So it's the easiest thing is you would do it in a shop. But when you're teaching, you're thinking, well, the easiest thing is not necessarily primary, because it may be that there's a school somewhere that they can, they actually could benefit. You would just set up a little tent. You would set up some overhead covering and a temporary shelter, and you would move it in and set it all up. So there are many controls. One of them is level, so that if we're using a level, we can modify and alter things as need be. In terms of this building is actually, the pilings are in the mud, and there'll be times when we go to open this door, it jams, and there'll be times when it's re-swinging, depending on, like even when they brought this big boat in over to the side, I'd say it was 3 weeks ago or something, this huge boat, and they brought it even further in. Some things fell off of my bench down in the corner. So I knew that the building had changed. And I knew from when I was, we built Frida here, right next door, and Frida is 20,000 pounds. So the keel that we poured, the lead keel, by the time we brought it here, it was down to 7,000 some pounds. But rolling that along the floor, things would move. And so you always, when you're a boat builder, you're always, before you trap anything, you're making sure, like there's a number of things you have to do to make sure that the boat doesn't get twisted during the building, so you have to keep checking and check your all of these fundamental things, because like
Is it better to build on concrete?
It isn't, because what you want, I mean, if you have to, you would, but if I'm building on concrete, I might put plywood down, because you want to be able to brace things to the floor. And we haven't done too much of that yet. But if you look at there'll be places where, like for example, one of them was when I put this bow piece on, you can fasten. So you can just fasten to the floor anywhere you want. You can, I mean, this is temporary, but it's fastened to the floor. And here and there, when I get more certain about this, like I think, see these rib bands get set in, and so they're going to come to here, and then the frames are going to come to here, and then the planking is going to come to here, and then there's the piece of stem that's going to be on here. And then that's going to be the piece that I think you saw, but I'm not sure you saw what Rick and I cut out on this big piece. Did you see this big piece over here? You saw this, huh?
Yeah, I think I did, yeah.
Did you see it after we cut it? 'Cause I know you-
Not sure. Yeah, no.
See, look at, so Rick and I, we cut this alone on the saw over here.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we can do that is because we have a fantastic saw with a gear on it. You see on the side, just a piece of pipe really. We're rotating the piece through very, very carefully. So there's several things, many things going on at once, and one of them is where will I get the wood to make the keel, the two different keels. As you recall, there were so if we look at it as it is now, it's upside down, and it's going to draw something. And after I finish drawing it a little bit, you'll have a better sense of this. So this piece, this center here. And then let's go this. Then there's a separate piece of wood that goes on that will look like this. This one's actually thicker. And our mold right now, these molds that you see over here, it turns out that we could easily calculate this, because we'd say, all right, here's the planking, here's the frame, see, frame coming down.
What angle are, so how are we looking at the boat?
We're looking at a section, any of these, and we see what we're looking at. I'm going to make these more to true size, so this guy would be about to here.
So we're looking at a cross section?
Yeah, we're looking at the mold that we're looking at over there, any one of them. They are right here, see?
Oh,
so
I
there's
see.
the bottom sticking up, and we will be putting in frames that are 1 inch, see, and planking that is 3/4 of an inch, see, and so there are two pieces, and by doing it this way, we're able to bend them to this curved shape that you see. Frankly, I haven't done it yet because it hasn't been anybody here to hold it for me, but if I take a batten, then you guys can see for yourself what it will look like. Just get it shared. Actually, the sawhorses suddenly came freed up, so he's so forth. One of the things we have to be really careful is the shop is smaller now because we have another boat in it. So we have to think about the danger, not only of tripping or something, but of hurting the boats, you know? So we do everything kind of slowly, just carefully watching what's happening.
I'll move that over.
That's all right. So what I want is a batten that's fairly stiff, because what we're going to put on there is very stiff. And this guy is not long enough, so I'm going to be pulling down an unusually long batten. So I'll go to the middle